Good evening.
Good evening.
This is wonderful to see so many people that want to be part of Code Blue this year. So give yourselves a round of applause. It's an amazing thing when we think that Code Blue started with Reverend Rutherford over in her church, Mayor Kelly, myself, a couple cots and some blankets there, and now look what Code Blue has become. We have people from Millville. If you're from Millville, raise your hand. The Millville people are right here, and we have people from Vineland. Any Vineland people? Vineland over here. So we have people from all these different communities. In fact, anybody from Salem County, because Salem County contacted me that they're interested in starting Code Blue over in Salem County. So it's something that is becoming a model that is being replicated throughout the region. And I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to come here tonight to be oriented to what we're going to do for the Code Blue season ahead, and to make sure that we're all informed and all ready to go as we are all ambassadors and an army of compassion out in this community. And we are very grateful for the leadership and the support of our mayor, Mayor Albert Kelly, and I'm going to invite him to come forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
One more time. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, thank you very much. It's so, as Pastor Weinstein said, it's so good to see so many people out here this evening. It's so good to see that there's not enough parking outside, parking spaces. People have to park all over the street and other parking lots, because it shows that you are people who want to be part of the answer and not part of the problem. We all know what the problem is: homelessness. We all know the problem is that the economy is as such that there's not enough resources out there for everyone to live a decent and wonderful life. And so it's up to us to do what we can to try to be the answer to the problem. And so last year taught us one thing, that when you put the word out there, people will respond. Many of you respond overwhelmingly by providing food, resources. It almost got to the point where we had to say stop, because we had so many cakes and pies and cookies, and as you notice, I'm focusing on the desserts. But we had so many people designate themselves as resources. We had churches who said that we will cook just on Saturday. We had a church that said we'll cook on Wednesday. We had another that said that we'll cook on Mondays, and the food and the resources. When we started very small, we just had a few cots and a few blankets and a few resources. By the end, we had cots, blankets. I even have now in my warehouse a hotel that went out of business gave us down pillows and down comforters to use for this coming year. And so by putting the word out, by you responding, by you following the will of God, we had a successful year. So now we're looking to build upon that to have an even more successful year and be prepared for whatever type of winter that we may have. And so I thank everybody for being here. We look forward to having a great time of fellowship, so that we can see each other. And when we see each other on the street, we know who's who, and we can thank each other for following the Holy Spirit. Thank you very much.
All right, so the next one up after me briefly will be Reverend Rutherford, who is one of our angels in disguise here. And but first I want to talk to you about the agenda, what we're going through. You've already had the welcome from the mayor. We're now going to talk about what Code Blue is and what Code Blue is not. Then we're going to have what to expect from a typical evening in Code Blue. Everything from being asked to play Medea on the DVD player to, watching people sleep. Resources for the homeless. We're going to have the former Chief of County Detectives from Salem County give us tips on public safety. Then we're going to have time for general questions, and if any of the municipalities, Millville or Vineland, wants to have a separate breakout, they're welcome to go downstairs for a breakout room. Otherwise, we will just continue on with talking about our application process for the city of Bridgeton now. So the first thing is to talk about what is Code Blue. Code Blue is not this formal program. It's interesting when people say, well, we want to contact the leaders of Code Blue. It's just those people that decided to step up and do something. And it's people, all of us. We're the leaders of Code Blue. There is not some sort of government agency out there dictating to us what we can or cannot do. We are just an army of compassion, and we do what needs to get done. So that's what Code Blue is. But it's a partnership between churches, organizations, and the city government. We're very fortunate to have the mayor be a champion of the Code Blue initiative. I've seen the guy working there all night long, and I've even had to send him home there to make sure that he got some sleep. But it is not a church proselytizing event, not a time for necessarily evangelism. It is a time to get people off the street when there's an emergency. Let them have a warm shelter, warm place, a smiling people, not people that look like this, because nobody wants to see that. And though you look like that at 3 in the morning after you pulled several shifts, but we'll just draw a happy face on you when you fall asleep. So that's what Code Blue is, and it's really for those times, and it's important to understand that it's for shelter. That is the primary reason, and I always say you got to keep the mission in front of you, because we all have these hearts of compassion, and we want to do this, and we want to do this, and you know what ends up happening is if we try to do all these different things, then we don't do it effective. And it's best that we do something well and get it effective and move on. So while there is a meal portion to it, the primary goal is not feeding. The primary goal is having a place to sleep. And so that was one thing that we had to deal with last year, is that some people thought we were the golden pigeon and could come in any time during the night and expect that they were going to get their meal. And so we've instituted some policies and procedures to make sure that that doesn't happen, so that we're respectful of your time, we're respectful of them. It's just the way that it needs to be there. So it is for shelter, and it is when there is a temperature of 32 degrees with precipitation or below, or 25 degrees, that's the normal, without precipitation. And you'll see, I know I'm probably jumping ahead, but you'll see that we use weather.com, and you type in the area code, because the mayor and I frequently went back and forth last year by text message which app were we using to figure out what temperature it was. So we've all established that weather.com is the authority. So if you're into NBC, sorry peeps. All right? So Code Blue is a community partnership. It's about people coming together. You don't need to be a member of a church to get involved with Code Blue. You don't need to be a member of an organization. You just need to have a pulse and be able to keep your eyes open and be responsible. Okay? And I think you all have a heart because you're here, so obviously you have a pulse. All right? Code Blue is open to all people that are in need. We don't do an evaluation method when they come in. They need a cot, they get a cot. One thing that we did last year is we're supposed to, cap it at a certain amount. We can't turn people away, so we're not going. We just kind of turn the other way to that regulation there, and we just make sure that we don't call insurance companies for their input. Okay. The other thing is about Code Blue and the religious initiative, because it is hosted by the churches. The churches take the lead, but again, we don't want people to feel that they can't come in or because they're going to get preached at. Again, the goal is for them to come in and go to bed. If there are religious activities that take place in the church, and they want to go to those activities, you're welcome to announce those activities, but it can't be done in that center. Now, that means we always say grace before the meal, but it means that we're not handing out tracts and we're not going and doing, having prayer services over people's cots because they're in there to sleep. But if they ask for it, or if you're having a conversation, you're more than free to express your faith. And it has nothing to do with the prohibition of you expressing your individual beliefs, but it does involve being respectful of the beliefs of our guests. And again, we would hate for someone to freeze to death because they would not feel welcome from coming into a church facility. So, what Code Blue is not, it's not a taxpayer-funded, city-run initiative. The city's part of it, but the taxpayers don't pay any of it. In fact, we have just been amazed at the generosity of the people in our community. Last week we had the fundraiser that in part raised money for Code Blue, and over $4,500 was raised just from that. And there's more money coming in just from that fundraiser. And the last Monday of the month, we have this month at the Green Olive. You can go there from 4:30 to 10 o'clock and get dinner, and 10% of the proceeds go to Code Blue. So there's all types of opportunities. And I should remind you, if you have your cell phone on, please place it on vibrate. Thank you. Otherwise, we'll have a musical interlude. When is Code Blue activated? Again, I mentioned this, that the mayor makes a call. Most of the time now, because of the 10-day forecast, we're able to know what's going on, but sometimes there are changes there. The mayor will announce it via email to the coordinators. It will be posted at bridgetoncodblue.com. And you can call the church 800 number, and there's an option to hit number 5 for Code Blue information, and that will be updated as there are different changes with Code Blue. So if you don't have access to a computer, because some people said, I don't know what a computer is, and if you have a phone, you can call and find out all the information. It will be recorded for you. We also do the text message blast. How many of you get the text message? How many of you get one of my nice emails? All right. Oh, I still don't have some of you, but I will get to you. I will get to you. In case you didn't know, I didn't announce myself. I am Robin Weinstein, the pastor of the church here, and the email guy that annoys everybody. So, but that's okay. I'm willing to be the nag, just to get the job done. So, last year we had the Police Benevolent Association come out. We have all different types of people that come out and help. It is a wonderful experience. You get to meet new people there. And now I'm going to invite Pastor Ellen Rutherford to come forward and talk about her experiences of a typical Code Blue evening. Let's give her a round of applause.
Well, as I look out here, I see many people who could easily be standing up here as well to be able to talk about their experience last winter with Code Blue. I just happened to be the one that was asked. So I'm going to ask you to use your memory or your imagination to think about what might be a typical Code Blue evening, if there is a typical one. And imagine that it's cold outside, and we know that there are people who are homeless in our community. And as the temperature drops, I'm aware that there are people in my community who are outside and who are cold and who do not have a warm place to sleep. And so I've come to know these people, and their stories and their names. And as it gets colder, I think about them by their stories and their names and their faces, as you know that also do. And so these people are part of my community family, and I am part of their community family. And as the temperature drops, these members of my family are in physical danger from the extreme temperatures. And so we decided to share what we have. And what we have is space and heat and food and hospitality. And when I come into the Code Blue Warming Center as a volunteer or as a guest, I come as part of the family. So now as a volunteer member of the family, here's what you might expect on a Code Blue evening. There are those who will come right at the beginning time, 5:36, to set up. And they may work with the bedding, get it ready for the evening. They might be helping with the dinner preparations. There might be a greeter at the door. I found that I have to fit in wherever I'm needed so the whole thing works as smoothly as possible. And I am likely to have a variety of jobs by the time my evening is completed. It's always important for each of us to understand that we're working as part of a team for the evening, so that we care for our guests consistently and fairly. So you've had supper, probably between 6 and 8, and then in the later evening, it's kind of downtime, as it would be at your house. And so if you are the volunteer in that section, you might want to bring something to read. You can watch videos that are available. You can bring your homework or your paperwork from the office so that you have something that keeps you busy and keeps you awake and maybe makes you feel like I used that time well. And then as you are there, people will ask you for things that they need and you're able to respond. Some of the guests nap through the evening. And so it is just like being at home with your family. Everybody's doing something different during that period. New guests may come in after the dinner hour and they're going to need somebody to help orient them to the space and make sure that they have everything they need for the evening. Now the late night volunteers on this schedule are heading like 11 to 3 and 3 to 6 or 7 in the morning. As late night volunteers stay awake. So if you can remember pulling all-nighters, this is your chance to do that again. You are awake because you want to be able to respond to anything that happens right away. But you also want to make sure that the sense of order that's been established continues through the evening, and so that people feel safe at all times. And you want to have a consistency in responding to requests for help, and you want to have a kind of a steady kindness that just keeps the evening flowing smoothly. Admittedly, most people will be asleep during that stretch, but some people are up and about, and some people have a need that they want to have fulfilled. And so morning comes, and you are still awake. So you wake up the guests, provide a light breakfast, and we have found that our guests often have lots of things planned for the day. And so they are ready to go. They know the schedule, they're ready to go out. And our part is just to give them the time and the space to get collected and to go out for the day. And as Pastor Weinstein mentioned, we often know whether the warming center will be open again in the evening. So if we're able to tell them that, they can plan their day accordingly. We are not going to be open, they need to know that too, so they can make another plan. So I suspect each of us comes to this warming center out of a sense of compassion and a desire to help those in the community who are in need. But I also believe that we discover that the care in the warming center is mutual. That as we come to know one another, volunteer to volunteer and volunteering guests, we understand that we're in this together. So through this work, we're invited to use the skills that we're going to learn in this orientation, and also to be generous with the compassion that we have gained in this life. And by our choice to share this cold weather life, I believe we claim each other as brothers and sisters in our community family. That's it.
Thank you. All right, and to briefly segue, we're going to have Diane Strozek come up, who is the coordinator of the division, or director of the Division of Homelessness for Cumberland County, to talk about some resources there. And you will, if you haven't received it already, there are the packets in the back there. But to talk to you just a brief moment about the shifts, as Pastor Rutherford mentioned, that this year we have the shifts done a little bit differently because we're using, they're shorter shifts, smaller shifts for those overnight hours so that people can have a little more sleep. And we're using an online volunteer system that didn't let me go into the next day. So that's why we had to stop at 12 o'clock there. So, but it's from 5:30 to 8 p.m. That'll handle that dinner rush area. And then we have have from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m., 12 a.m. to 3 a.m., 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. So the later nights are in the 3-hour area. Then you have those earlier times. And most of the time we find that the volunteers don't leave when their shift is up and during that social awake time there. So a lot of opportunities there, but Diane, would you come forward to give us a little information? Let's give her a round of applause.
Hello, everybody. It's really wonderful to see so many people that are interested in helping out with the Code Blue. And we had a meeting a few months ago, and we had maybe 50 people, and now it looks like we have over 100 here tonight. So really, really glad to see the initiative and the concern and compassion that people have towards the homeless and towards the situation. I started this job with the county 8 years ago, and I remember the first day we had a really cold temperature. One of the cops in Millville called me on the phone. He says, "Where's the Code Blue going to be?" I said, "The Code Blue? What are you talking about, the Code Blue?" You know, and I knew that they had them in the larger cities, but I didn't know if we had one, and we don't. We didn't have one at that time, and for all those years, I really talked it up and tried to get some kind of response from people in the area about it, but it took this initiative here in Bridgeton to get it started. So I'm very grateful to Mayor Kelly and to Pastor Weinstein and Pastor Allen and everyone else that were the people that started this. It's really a blessing to me personally because it's been in my heart for a long time, and it's a blessing to the community because we are taking government and church and community and just everybody just coming together to do what we need to do to take care of those that don't have any place to stay. So, thank you. Okay, so I'm the director of the Division of Homeless. Most people call me the homeless lady, although I'm not homeless. But I'm here to tell you about information. Now, there's a directory in the back. If you didn't get one of these, it's called 2014 Resources for Homeless and At-Risk Services for Cumberland County Residents. So this is sort of like stage 2 of the Code Blue process. Once you have your people in their cots and they're being fed and they're being taken care of, and you see them for several times coming into the Code Blue warming centers, you might want to speak to them about what's next in their life. You may think that you want to try to help them and connect them to resources. And that's not always an easy thing to do. It's a challenging thing to do. I know that Pastor Weinstein has been taking a couple and working with them, one at a time kind of procedure. But if you feel like you want to get more involved with these people's lives and speak to them, you all have access to this booklet, which lists all the resources that we have in the county. And as you go through it, it will tell you the phone numbers of the shelters. And there's several of them. We have one main shelter, but there are other shelters. And there may be people that could possibly be getting back into their apartments or houses or units or whatever. Or maybe even people that you just know that aren't even coming to the Code Blue, that you want to prevent their homelessness. Like, let's say they need utility assistance or they need rental assistance so they don't get evicted. All those resources for rental assistance, utility assistance, are listed in this resource book. The phone numbers of the agencies are in here. Now, if you don't want to get involved with all that because it's not so easy to figure it all out, just remember that my name and my phone number is on the inside cover of this book, and just tell them to call Diane, okay? Because that's what most people do anyway. So, and then I'll walk them through it. And I know one thing about doing referrals is that I usually know where the money is and where the money is not. So I won't tell you to go to this agency when I know that they're out of money, which this time of year, unfortunately, when it comes this time of year, we start to run out of funding. So, I'll help whoever you want to be to help, just have them call me. But we did put together these flow charts, and they're in the last 2 pages of the directory. So you do have one of these, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Because referring an individual that's homeless or a person that's at risk of becoming homeless is always income-based. So, although it's kind of an uncomfortable question, you shouldn't just say, well, how much money do you make? Before you speak to someone, you want to establish a relationship with them and let them know that you care. And but if they come to the point where, oh, gee, I really need to get my life together, I want to do something, you're going to have to ask them that question. What kind of income do you have? And that's how you do a referral. The first one I have on here, some of them came out wrong. So if you only have a single referral sheet and you don't have a family one, I think there's a lot of them left back there. And you can get the one that has both of the flow charts, because singles are dealt with differently than families. Anyway, the first flow chart is for singles. So if on the left-hand side, if a single's income is less than $210, or two singles that are living together as a couple or a married couple earn less than $290, or they're receiving SSI, which is Social Security Disability, then they should go to the Cumberland County Board of Social Services, which is in Vineland, which most of you call the welfare office. So if they're making a low income like that, and they make less than the amount that's in that box, then if they're homeless or they want rental assistance, or utility assistance, if they're, in rentals or whatever, they need to go to the Board of Social Services and request what they call emergency assistance. And they cannot get emergency assistance unless they're hooked up to, I shouldn't say hooked up, unless they've received their status as general assistance or TANF. Now I'm getting a little too technical. But anyway, if they make less than that amount, tell them to go to the welfare office and the caseworkers will help them. If they make more than that amount, then you go to the right side of the flow chart, and then they should just call the Cumberland Family Shelter directly. And the phone number is listed on there. But if you're working with a woman who is a victim of domestic violence, the Domestic Violence Center for Family Services, the hotline, the domestic violence hotline is on there, the 800 number, and they should call there. All right? Now, you'll see below, we have a lot of different subpopulations. Not everybody fits in the same category. We have certain programs for the mentally ill, programs for those that have substance abuse problems, etc., etc. I don't want to take up much more time, but if you follow this, you could actually learn how to do a referral yourself. And if you want me to help you to become better at doing referrals, you can always come make an appointment with me. I'm willing to do classes or just talk to you on the phone and help you through this, because I can't do this all myself, and neither can all the agencies that are out there. Since the recession, our workload has been unbelievable. The welfare office itself has 36,000 clients. How do you like that? That's half the population of Vineland. So if you think that you're waiting a long time in the welfare office, maybe it's because they have 36,000 clients. Ask Mayor Kelly how many people they have coming into Gateway. It's incredible, the amount of people that are in need. It's crazy. Anyway, Human Services Advisory Council, that's another social service part of the government, county government, came together with these green cards. They just put these out. If you didn't get one of these, please take one before you leave. This is a summary of a lot of different services. Actually, the Human Services Advisory Council has a larger brochure called the Help brochure. Probably some of you have seen that, which is a very large brochure. And if you call them, you can get copies of those. But this is a very short version of the most used phone numbers. And this isn't just about homelessness. This is about youth and family services, financial assistance, health and environment, different needs that people might have. So that's about all I have to say. Thank you again.
mention where our Code Blue facilities will be this year, we're very excited that we have an additional facility with St. Teresa's Church, where we will be operating there. So very appreciative to the Catholic Church for joining the coalition. We would like one more facility or one more group to join us as a host organization. So that way, the host organizations only have about 3 weeks of responsibility throughout the winter. Rather than last year, it just became a lot. We're willing to do it, but we would really like if the Spirit moved upon some of you to say, let me take this back to my church, and we're going to be a host church. Now, some churches go, but we're not in town. Don't worry, Reverend Rutherford has offered her church building, and we are offering our church building to share with you, just as we do with Bethany Seventh-day Adventist, to be a host church in our buildings, because we'll gladly give you the key as we take a week of relief there. So that's what we need. And then this year we're also offering the supporting church and organization. Last year we had support coming in all different times. Mayor Kelly's phone was ringing, Reverend Rutherford's phone was ringing, my phone was ringing. We were trying to manage everything. Now we're trying to have a supporting church or organization. So it can be like the Rotary, the Seroptimist. It can be your workplace to say we're going to adopt a week. And what you do when you adopt a week is you're married up with that host church, and your job is to help them with performing. They have the ultimate responsibility, but your job is to come alongside them, help with meals, help with getting some volunteers and staffing and so forth. So it's not, the goal is that we don't want this to become a burden for anybody, but we want this to be something that we can all enjoy serving in. And that just means that we all do our part. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to one of my friends, Ralph Padilla, who is also the mayor of Pittsburgh. He told me I looked very nice this evening, like a U.S. Airways attendant. So I'd like to invite him to come forward, and let's show him a round of applause.
Welcome. Thanks for being here tonight. Buenas noches. Gracias por estar aquí esta noche. Doesn't that make you feel good? Okay. In my previous life, or my first chapter in life, I was in law enforcement for 25 years. I'm the son of 2 Puerto Rican immigrants, and also we spoke with Spanish in our household, and that was a blessing because it helped me out down the line. And in law enforcement, I was assigned to the DEA, did a lot of crazy things, and worked undercover for the DEA outside the United States, throughout the United States. I looked a whole lot different. I used to walk around with Mr. T starter set jewelry kid and all that stuff. I was a whole lot trimmer back then. Rice and beans and roast pork and other stuff that's taken its effect on my temple. But what I said when I just started here was, I have been able to witness the worst in society. When I would have to deal with families after they lost a loved one to an act of violence, homicide, serious aggravated assaults, and destruction of drugs and gangs. By you being here tonight shows that you want to make a difference. When I said, good evening, thanks for being here, can you imagine that icebreaker when somebody walks through the door of where you're running your operation that night, and that's the first words that he or she hears? Because you know what? People that have slipped through the cracks in our communities, usually what they hear when they come in contact with an organizational structure, government, social services, other organizations is, grab a number, what's your name, show me your ID. So, I'm here to talk about, let's talk about safety tips. Really what I want to talk about is some life experiences, what I think will help your group, your community, to break down those barriers when you first make the contact. Okay? So, let's start off with that. Obviously, we're dealing with people that are in situations, some have come from different backgrounds. Some have ended up in your communities due to, again, the devastation of drug abuse, family situations, economic situations, but they ended up at your place. So you have a moral obligation to do the right thing. That's what I tell my kids. So when we first start off, I think the important thing is we want to break that ice. I'm going to give you, how many people are bilingual in this room right now? Spanish speaking. Great. All right? So that we have 100 people here, maybe 10 people put their hands up. That's 10%. The reality is in these communities, you're actually dealing closer to 4 out of 10 people that are of Hispanic descent. So, again, breaking down some barriers with people that speak your same tongue, something as simple as that. Again, good evening. I'm glad you're here. And then you go into that Spanglish mode. All right? Because I got some kids in my house, they don't speak Spanish, they speak Spanglish. Okay? So that's when you say, real easy, right? Let's all do it together. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Yo me llamo. Here's when we start losing. Yo. Me. Llamo. Whatever your name is. Don't say whatever your name is. Say your name. What you just did, somebody doesn't speak your language that has come here for a host of different reasons. Other than being an American Indian, let's not get the immigration issue here, but other than being an American Indian, we all came here. We agree on that. So they're dealing with life struggles. They don't even speak your language. They're homeless on the streets. They come into your place. And what's the first icebreaker you get? You get them to smile because your Spanish is horrible. All I want you to do is just find ways to make somebody feel comfortable in that first interaction that you're dealing with them. This isn't splitting atoms. We're not curing cancer. We're not sending monkeys to Mars, okay? It's just some basic stuff that you can do. Now let's talk about some safety issues. Again, you're dealing in the evening, you're dealing with some people that have shown up to your doorsteps to get some help, that they might be, tired, they might be miserable, they might have had a little bit too much to drink. The one thing that you can never do, unless it's in defense of yourself or a third person, is end up in a physical confrontation, okay? Obviously, the program's set up to ensure that you have enough people. You want to talk people off the cliff, okay? You want to tell people, again, people that are heightened up, that oftentimes don't receive this help. Oftentimes, they're not around people for a structured period of time. One word you want to use, because it is sincere. You're not lying to a person. Calm down, my friend. It's probably been years since somebody called me friend. Hispanics. I will tell you one thing. We're driving down the road on Route 55. I'm driving, my wife's in the front seat with me, my mother's in the back seat, my daughter. If you drive by, you think none of us can speak, we're doing sign language or we're in argument. Mira, ¿para dónde vamos? Yo no sé, voy para allá. Tú me dijiste, ¿puedes aquí de verdad que tú lo sabes, What happens, and it happens, but what happens is all of a sudden you're there and somebody's doing all this and you're like, yo, Cap, put your hands down. Halt, or I'll say halt again. Okay? All right? Ready? This is your other. This is all free of charge, too. Okay? The other thing you want to do is, you want to have one word. One word you want to do to calm down a situation, especially with Spanish-speaking individuals. Okay? Despacio. Despacio. Means slow up. Despacio. Slow up. Despacio. 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 It's a soothing word. Believe me, we have dealt with people of Spanish-speaking descent that you kind of talk them down just or something like that. Because you know why? Because when they're doing this, they're usually encountering people in the street, and the next thing you know, usually they find themselves in the hood of a police car, or next thing you know, somebody's saying, all right, you want to whale your hands? Ba-boom. Okay? Little things like that. One of the things, one of my concerns when you look at the services that you're doing, when you're doing your services, it's in what time of the day?
At night.
In the evening. okay? I started in law enforcement when I was 19 years old. Went to the police academy, first time I ever had to make a bed. Didn't do well, okay? I got out of the academy, and when I was a road officer, I worked 2 years, 1 month, 3 days, midnight shift. Worst 2 years, 1 month, 3 days of my life. Okay? Now, in Chocolate, you've got to be very careful about that. You know, everybody has that heightened sense of awareness when they're impaired. People, unfortunately, continue to drive impaired. They drive drunk, they go, and what happens is, again, this computer that you have in your head, this great noggin, all of a sudden you're impaired, you're like, oh my God, I'm on 55. Are the troopers there? Where are they at? All of a sudden, you know, your brain, now you see lights, you're, okay, everything's good. I'm hands on 2 and 10. As soon as the trooper comes up, I'm gonna roll down the window and say, Trooper, I'm sorry, I'm just a little tired, I've been working real hard. Right? And then you roll down the window and you go, What happens is driving with fatigue is just as dangerous as driving impaired. Okay? So if you want to volunteer and you're from a distance and you haven't worked the midnight shift, make some plans. Okay? Keep that in mind. And don't be shy to tell somebody, hey, listen, I'll be honest with you, I can't stand up. I'm that physically tired. So keep that in mind. Lastly, in these types of situations, when you look at, this is nothing new. It's done in a lot of the urban pockets. Organizations that do this very well remind their staff that nobody goes from 1 to 100 like that. Okay? As you're doing your good deeds during the evening, you have to be very observant. You have to see how people interact, okay? You don't have to be a trained police officer to realize if I'm sitting next to him or something like that the whole night, I'm looking at him like, you know, I'm clenching my fist, I'm looking at him, I keep looking back at him, I'm snarling at him. You need to start saying, I don't know what's going on with these two jokers, but they don't seem like they're going to get along real well tonight. Okay? So what do you do? Separate. Talk to them. Okay? And it can be some basic things. Okay? And the other thing that I don't want you to do, because we do this quite a bit in our society, because we hear it all the time. This young man happens to be African American. Okay? I told you I'm a Latino, Hispanic. All of a sudden somebody sees something that says, because everybody got 300 channels on Comcast, and all you hear is gangs. There's issues. Okay? Now, me and him are like walking by each other, looking at each other. Now all of a sudden, oh, I saw this on CNN. Somebody needs to do something. I think these two guys are gang members, and you know, the one guy's Puerto Rican, so I think we've got race issues here. It's a gang issue. Then you stop and you talk to people. You get somebody coordinated and says, "Hey, by the way, Ralph, come over here. You know, what's going on here?" Oh, to be honest with you, we used to live in the same neighborhood, and we didn't like each other then, or he took my bike, or whatever. Okay? Don't jump to conclusions, because believe me, what you can turn around and end up doing is making things a whole lot worse in your situation here. When you start separating people, and unfortunately the road they have is paved with good intentions, and somebody says, we got to separate those guys because they look different. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, oftentimes people have told me, why are you doing this? Why are we doing this? Everybody's got the same opportunity, right? We're the most powerful nation in the world. Education, if we train, all kinds of things. We've come so far as a nation, but we still, to this day, can't help our own people. So, I look here, and I say to myself, everyone sitting here could be at home right now, watching cable, eating dinner, at the movies, watching their kids or grandkids playing sports, or doing absolutely nothing. So for that, I applaud you. For that, I applaud the leader of the city, who's been in, all his chips are in. And more importantly, I applaud everybody who's sitting here tonight, because all your chips are in. I'm your neighbor from Pittsgrove. I just happen to be a guy that got roped in to run for elected office as a guinea pig for my son, who graduated as a political science major at Rutgers. And and said, I got this real cool plan how to run elections, and this is what we're going to do, blah, 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 and you're going to run. And you know how it is, what you do for your kids, but more importantly, whatever you need from not necessarily my official capacity, but the Padilla family, we're all in, because I'm a true believer that those of us that are blessed with family, health, friends, and very humbling to say, with success, we owe it to pay it forward. So, thank you for your time tonight. Godspeed.
Well, I think he was trying to take my job as pastor of the church here. People get ready to shout hallelujah there. So let me just run through some things for you. And then does the Millville group want to have a separate breakout group, or do you want me to just go through things? Because there's room downstairs. Because we're going to run through things in 10 minutes.
I think we should just stay here.
Okay, then everybody get ready, because I'm going to run you through Code Blue in 10 minutes now. So, who works at the facility? It's all the different people that we've talked about already. Where can you sign up? BridgetonCodeBlue.com. Now, you have to fill out the application form that is in front of you or back there. Now, some people go, well, we didn't have to do that last year. We understand, but we also didn't talk to our insurance people last year when we did it either. So, in fact, some of us had to get different insurance in order to keep doing Code Blue. So this is your opportunity to help us out by filling out a simple volunteer application form and saying that you are not going to sue the churches, Mayor Kelly, myself, Pastor Rutherford. Who would want to sue Pastor Rutherford? So you just sign your name on the dotted line there and turn that in so that we can make you an official volunteer. This year also, official volunteers will get a badge from Gateway. Gateway's going to give us picture ID badges so we know who we're working with. Because if you think about it, because I thought about it a little more last year after I got some rest, and I went, I was sitting with people at 3 in the morning that I had no clue who they were. They told me they were a volunteer. All right? So now you know why we have to have the application form. The next step is there's a background check form. The background check is only going to check to see whether or not you are a sexual predator. So if you don't want to fill that out, you don't have to be a volunteer. And it's also going to see if you have any active criminal activity, because again, we want to ensure the safety of also one another and our guests there. So the details are actually outlined in the packet on what would disqualify you. We had all these email chains over the summer on what would disqualify someone, how would we work it out. Then we had people go, well, I'm a member of a church and I want to go through that. So we made a provision there that if you are an active member of a church and your pastor signs a letter that says you are an official volunteer of the church, because for Code Blue, by doing that, the liability then goes on them, okay? And they're saying that we don't need to see the background check form because we're trusting in the pastor and the church saying that they've taken appropriate steps there. And we're not going to dig into what that church does, but that's the whole reason. So if you're an active member, you can get your pastor to sign a letter and then you don't have to do the background check form. But it doesn't cost you anything for the background check. All those fees have been paid for by the donations that have come in to ensure that everybody is safe there. That's our responsibility. So now to sign up on the BridgetonCodeBlue.com, you can't do that right now. You will only be able to do that once you fill out the application form. You'll get a secret link that will allow you to go and sign up using the Volunteer Spot software, which is really easy to use, which I think is the next slide. There we go.
Welcome to Volunteer Spot.
2 minutes.
It's easy to participate in the activities you care about with Volunteer Spot's free and easy online sign-up sheets. Here's a sample email invitation. Parents are being asked to help out in Mrs. Rose's classroom. Inside the email, there's a custom message from the organizer and a link to the activity. I'll click on the link to access the activity on Volunteer Spot so I can sign up to help. You may also access any activity through a website button, Facebook page, Twitter feed, or Volunteer Spot sign-up apps for iPhone and Android. I'll use the mini calendar to check which dates still have openings. I can scroll through the calendar by clicking on the arrow or by selecting a month from the drop-down menu. Days turn green when I already have an assignment to help on that day. Days with blue shading indicate there are still spots available. Days shaded gray indicate that all spots have been filled for that day. Let's say I want to help on October 22nd and 24th. I'll click on the first date in the calendar to see what's needed. I think I'll bring some healthy snacks, so I'll click on the orange sign-up button to sign up, and then I'll add a comment so other parents can see what I plan to bring. Next, I can either scroll here to find my next date, or click on the available date on the calendar above to jump to October 24th. This time, I'll volunteer to be a classroom leader. When I'm done signing up for all my days, I click Save. I now have the option of printing my commitments or adding them to my Outlook, iCal, Cozy, or Google Calendars, and I can review all my assignments right here in the summary. Suppose I realize I have a scheduling conflict for one of the days I signed up for. I can use this link to get back into the activity or go back to any invitation or confirmation email or sign-up button. Once I'm back into the activity, I'll click on the calendar to view October. Then I'll click here to see my spots. I'll scroll down to October 3rd and then click the minus sign or the trash can to remove myself. When I'm finished, I click Save. Volunteer Spot sends an email to confirm my sign-up and a reminder email 2 days before the activity. Volunteer Spot also supports active people on the go in 2 ways. A link open from a smartphone routes you to screens fitted for your mobile device. Choose your spots and sign up with a few taps, and sync assignments directly to your smartphone calendar. Android and iPhone apps are now available for download. Volunteer Spot sign-up app lets you access all your invitations and assignments in one place and track your service hours. Search for Volunteer Spot in the App Store today. Thanks for using Volunteer Spot. We're doing good, just got easier.
All right, so the goal of the Volunteer Spot is to save those people that are the coordinators from getting 9 million emails. Oh, I can do it here, but I can't do it here. And let me swap around, because guess what? Even with Volunteer Spot, you can go on there and request to swap your post with somebody else. It's easy. The videos are on the website. I encourage you to learn how to do it. It's real easy, and you don't have to give all this detailed information about yourself. But that way you don't have to get 9 million emails from me. You'll only get 8 million. So please utilize that. We're going to be trying out. I'm sure there's going to be kinks in the system that we're going to need to work out, but bear with us because we're all volunteers with this organization. So go online. We already talked about this stuff. I did want to mention we don't give money to our guests. Nobody gives money to our guests. That way we have a policy, no money. So when you get asked, sorry, blame Mayor Kelly. That's what Reverend Rutherford and I like to do. Oh, it's the mayor. And then the mayor goes, it's Pastor Wine's son. There we go. We already talked about that. So our needs that we have coming up, again, we need supporting church. We need one more host church. We need supporting organizations. The volunteers, once you fill out the volunteer form, you'll eventually, soon enough, get an email from my assistant, Carla, who will say, okay, you're in the system. Here's how to go to Volunteer Spot. And then she will also confer with Mayor Kelly's Gateway office to get started with the scheduling for people to get pictures so that it's an organized way that you can get your picture ID. Code Blue season begins November 1st and ends March. Now last year we kind of laughed at when we had the schedule going into March and we had no idea that we would be operating Code Blue into the second week in March. But November 1st is when we start, but again, it's the rotation is already established. We probably won't be activated unless it, again, drops to those temperatures, but we do want to be ready. And that's the whole goal. If we can all be ready, then we don't have to work in a state of emergency all the time. And with that, I say thank you for your time this evening. And are there questions that you feel bold enough to ask? And if you would please stand so we can hear you. And or if you shout loud, and I'll repeat it.
What happens if it's 6 o'clock in the morning and it's freezing rain and 20 below? Do we just kick everybody in the street, or is there a facility for that?
No, what we do is each facility makes a call at that moment in time. It's up to the host facility on what to do. So last year there were, now Reverend Rutherford's church actively keeps people a little bit longer there, and that's, so the 6 p.m. to the 6 a.m., that is the established code blue time. But the host facility has the ability to keep open if they want to keep open at that time. And most of the time that's done by the coordinator. There were many times that Mayor Kelly over here in our church or I had to keep it open because of a snowstorm or whatever. But again, you have to look at, can you maintain, we operate on the rule of 3, to have 3 volunteers there. At least one has to be a male, and then there at least has to be a female, so that there's a male and female, and then that third one can be either or. But you got to make sure that the rule of 3 can stay there during that time, because you can't put yourself or anybody else in a position of being left on your own. There was one time that I was left on my own during a snowstorm, and that wasn't fun because we had all kinds of things that evening. But so you take it on a case-by-case basis. But the code blue time, the established time is 6 to 6. So good question. Thank you. Yes.
How do you handle dinner? Who cooks? Where is it?
How do you handle dinner? Well, and that is in your FAQ packet, but let me tell you the dinner. If you want to do dinners, now on the Code Blue website, or actually right now you can sign up to do dinners. You don't need to be an official volunteer to do dinners. We will gladly take your food if you don't want to be an official volunteer. So you can go on to bridgetoncodeblue.com and sign up. We generally ask for dinner in the 60 to 70 person range. So it can be soup, it can be chili, it can be pizza. You can do whatever you want, but we ask you to provide the drinks, the meal. You provide the whole thing. So, and sometimes we'll have a lot of people come in for dinner, and sometimes we don't have a lot of people. When the Hands of Compassion are there, it's a huge party. Because they have all kinds of food there. But so you can go onto the website and do that now onto bridgetoncodeblue.com and say, okay, we want to sign up for this day. You can do it by day, so you don't have to have a regular rotation there, and then we'll make sure that we fit everybody else around there. So, but whatever you want to make for dinner, they will gladly eat. Except I don't think they want tofu. So, other questions? But again, I want to emphasize, we have the website now, which is up and running. You can call the mayor's office during operating hours, which, Mayor, what's the phone number?
455-3230, extension 200.
3230, extension 200, 455-3230. And so if you don't have access to a computer and you want to volunteer, we drafted the mayor's assistant, Irene, to help with the volunteer, to add it into the volunteer spot. So again, that we have a consistent thing there. But, yes, ma'am.
I have a question. If you sign up, if I sign up next week, and I want to do December the 15th, is it just canceled if it's not below 25?
Correct.
And so then we just have to wait till that day and don't make what we were going to make?
Correct. Generally, what you'll know is you'll know that week in advance of what the Code Blue is going to look like. So you'll get an email. That will still go out to everybody that'll say, this is what Code Blue looks like for this upcoming week. And then it may change on the fly. There are times when that has happened that the weather people got it wrong. I know that's surprising, right? So, and so what we also encourage you to do is sign up for more than one spot, because you have greater chances of, it's like playing the lottery there. Put in more numbers and you might get it. But yeah, and we understand that it's just the unpredictable nature. It's also if you volunteer, because you can go on there and say, I want to volunteer on the 23rd of January to work a 3 a.m. shift, and we might not have it on the 23rd of January. So we all have to be on edge of our seats ready to go. Any other questions? Yes?
Turn in the applications tonight.
You can turn in the application tonight and you can put them on the back, on that back table. Or actually, let's make it easy, because some of you have to sign up still and make sure that you registered that you came. You can put the application at the altar. You have to come forward there. Come to the altar and lay your application down. Mayor, do you want to close this out?
If there are no other questions, I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. We look forward to a successful year this year. Hopefully we'll have a warm winter.
Heat wave.
Heat wave.